We are live.
We are live and we are moving. Find my agenda. Oh, my God. There we are. Maybe appropriations. That is today. We got the budget bill about 20 minutes ago. And so we are being asked to go through it if possible, vote it out of here. I have had one request for a change. And how we're gonna do it, because this is on ahead of transportation. But if we are going to agree to appropriate money from the pilot fund to the local or municipal roads or local roads program in the T-bill, I have been asked to add that to appropriations because it is an appropriation and that's where it should rise. So we'll have to figure out how to coordinate that, but that's the one request that had for
And appropriations is an agreement.
they asked that I do it. It's not affecting the budget because it's an appropriating from a separate fund. It won't change anyone's numbers. So Emily, I have you. Chris Root is been called to another committee.
Yes, Chris and I are doing the flip flop.
Yeah,
He's over there.
Amy and however it works.
Great.
And at 2:45, we are doing a joint hearing on the education bill. So we will walk through that. And then it's been divided, so it's easily dividable between the finance and the ed policy decisions that were done by two separate committees. So we will be working on the finance, most of which is repealing and then putting back in, but fleshing out sections of Act 73. So that's our afternoon. Emily, welcome.
Great. For the record, Emily Byrne, the Joint Fiscal Office, here to give you a high-level overview of H 951 Appropriations Act as passed by your colleagues in Senate Appropriations yesterday afternoon. I was not planning on going through the entire details of the entire budget, rather focus on the specific areas that are within the jurisdiction of this committee. And just quick PowerPoint, and we'll have a highlight document that we typically put together. We're waiting for final edits from Senator Perchlik, and that will be posted. We can make sure that you all get a copy of that before you vote tomorrow. So there we go. So at a high level, there is a 9.37 unduplicated $1 billion budget. So unduplicated means when you see the totals, things like the global commitment fund, internal service funds, interdepartmental transfer get appropriated twice. So for all those purposes, the budget is the 9.37 billion. Of that, the majority or 35% is federal funds, anticipated mostly in the Medicaid program, also all across areas of state government. The general fund and the education fund make up 27% each, a little more from the general fund this year, about $30 million less of education fund appropriation. This reflects the yield bill that was passed by this committee last Friday.
And they're about equal.
Yeah, just about
2.5 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
7% of the appropriations made are from special funds. So all the after school special fund,
we might be appropriate.
the pilot fund, the DFR funds, all 400 special funds in state government, and then the remaining 4% comes from the transportation. And then, I went too far. So just at a high level to see the differences from what the governor recommended, the changes made in the House, and then changes made in the Senate appropriations as compared to the House. There was a little bit of change in the revenue. This was primarily related to, or not primarily, exclusively related to the change made in the miscellaneous tax bill, reducing the downtown and village tax credit, passed by the House by $500,000. So that money effectively becomes available for appropriations in the Appropriations Committee. In the House, you'll notice there was an additional $9.9 million of transfers to the general fund from other funds. The increase from the governor's recommend reflects a transfer of interest from the Technology Modernization Fund. So that money was brought into the general fund and then appropriated by the House and then also by the Senate. Of note, the Senate bill contemplates a contingency list. We have no read yet at this point whether or not there will be sufficient revenue to actually fund a contingency list in FY 2026, but in anticipation of the possibility there may be enough revenue. The first thing on the contingency list in the bill as passed by Senator Probst includes backfilling half of the transfer of the interest from the Technology Modernization Fund back into that fund to be available for projects. So if there's contingency funding and if there's sufficient funding at the end of FY 26, excess over and above appropriations, it will go to that fund.
Does that, and with that contingency list, does that take priority over the waterfall to the unfunded pension liabilities?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yeah, and the way that it's drafted, and this is how we drafted it, how it's been enacted the last couple of years, is it says the first thing that gets guaranteed is any money from FY 26 that's supposed to pull forward into FY 27. So that's about $71 million in the Senate construct. The governor had about $74 million that gets pulled forward from FY 26 to FY 27 to balance the 27 budget. Then there's a contingency list. The Senate version of the bill has 4 items on a contingency list, and then anything over and above that is allocated pursuant to 32-308C, which is the 50% to the rainy day fund, and then 25% to the teachers' retirement, and 25% to the state employees' retirement funds.
Thank you.
Yeah. So on that prior year carry forward line, this is the line that shows the amounts that's being pulled forward from FY 26 into FY 27 is one-time money. The change between the governor's recommend and the House reflects the $3.96 million reduction due to the corporate tax changes in the miscellaneous tax bill. So we have to account for that in the prior year. So it reduces anticipated unallocated funds. And then there was a little bit of changes with prior year appropriations in the Senate version that makes up that increases it slightly compared to the House. When we go to the base appropriations, there's some changes in the base appropriations and the one-time appropriations. If the Senate bill appropriates an additional $6.7 million as compared to the House, that's primarily $4 million of that is related to the renter credit change. So in the governor's recommend and in the House version, that $4 million is carried as a transfer, which we carry is not an appropriation. So it's characterized in those rows below, which is why there's a $6.4 million decrease in transfers. So there were a few items, the big one being that $4 million that were appropriated rather than transfers. And $4 million of that is the renter credit appropriation as part of the miscellaneous tax bill that you all passed out. So it's a net, pretty much net zero shift. They're not spending any more money than the House, but it changes between appropriations and transfers, which is a pretty nerdy, detailed accounting piece, but that's to be clear on why it's carried. So anyway, that's the sort of the big picture of what's happening in the general fund, what's going in, what's going out, and it being in balance. That 0.1 on the bottom is really like $67,000.
Can I ask a question? So that's accounted for in this, so we need to make it an amendment in here based on that?
No.
Okay, because we were I was told that we would need to amend the bill, but it's,
Yes.
like, no.
Yes, yesterday, Senate Appropriations decided they reduced the education fund transfer to $100.9 million and increased the renter credit by $4 million to 15.5. So that's all the miscellaneous tax bill changes are accounted for in the big bill,
Okay.
Including the $10 million.
including all of the revenue changes.
I mean, that was in the yield bill, the renter credit was in the.
Yes, also the yield bill, thank you.
Okay, so it's not.
Miscellaneous tax and yield. bill.
I can't keep them straight. We do them both on Friday.
Yeah,
Yes.
Friday bills.
Everything that happened on
Until
Friday.
after 6, the 2 nights before, so they're all running together.
Yes. And then, so at a high level, some of the things that this committee will have the most interest in. I'm sure there are lots of things you'll have interest in, but in terms of committee jurisdiction, the few things in talking with Chris to highlight for you all. So in sections B 1100 and E 1100, B is the appropriation and E 1100 is the language associated with it, but there is an additional position established at the tax department to help PBR work with the implementation in the changes to the homestead declaration that are in the miscellaneous tax bill and the yield bill. In D 101, this is the transfer to the education fund. This is it reducing to $100.9 million in accordance with the yield bill as passed by this committee on Friday. In section E 127.1, there is a new study that requires the Joint Fiscal Office to review special funds, their associated fees, and report back to the General Assembly. The process is, it's going to take us 4 years. We've lined up the sections. There's like 400 special funds that we'll do about 100 a year to try to provide a little bit more insight to what those are, where the money comes from. Are there any that should be eliminated or changed or et cetera? This is sort of goal behind that.
Is there any change under the couch cushions?
Well, yeah, or if there's, money that's been hanging out,
Yeah.
we should deal with.
I know the appropriations committee has been looking.
In sections E 307 to E 307.1 is the adoption of a programmatic change that doesn't directly impact the education fund this year or in the yield bill, but may in future years. So the Agency of Education has run a program, school-based, to draw down Medicaid funds for services provided in schools for children that qualify for Medicaid, things like PT or OT. The schools can then draw down Medicaid funds. The federal match for those Medicaid funds went into a special fund, and the special fund was then allocated part to the education fund. 50% went back to school districts, and then about 30% for overhead for the Agency of Education and the Agency of Human Services. The bill, per request from the administration and the House, had a separate bill, and it was decided to pull it into the budget. But the program itself is going to move from the Agency of Education to the Agency of Human Services. And then that sort of reestablishes the special funds. It leaves the allocations intact. I think next year it will drop from a 30% overhead allocation to AHS to 20%. But AHS thinks that they can work within that 20% overhead.
How much
amount.
money are we talking about?
How much money are we talking about? I know it's about 6 million that goes into the ed fund. Julia. Give me a second.
Can I just ask, if we had testimony on this today in health and welfare that AOE came in and about the Medicaid services. So I guess it's a decision that we're gonna make in health and welfare as to whether or not we take their advice. But for the time being, it's all on AHS.
Yes, for the time being, it's all in AHS, and I think one of the AOE testified in Senate Appropriations about one of the changes is what role does the Agency of Education have in determining how school districts spend the money that goes back to the school districts?
Yeah.
I believe the underlying bill as initially introduced in the House had rulemaking authority for the Agency of Education, and that was not included in the House version of the budget, and was not included in the Senate version of the budget.
Right.
Right now, it just says the percentage that's supposed to go back to school district goes back to school districts for school districts too.
So this just makes the change in the administrating agency. The details are yet to be worked out. Okay.
And then the final one, in section E 923, this was in the governor's recommended budget, but was determined it needed to move out. It needs to start in fiscal 2028, because the interest earned by the transportation fund has been going to the general fund. Which any special fund, unless otherwise explicitly stated, the interest goes to the general fund, not to the transportation fund.
And the ed fund?
The ed fund, I think it explicitly states in the ed fund.
Okay,
So the transportation fund interests have been going to the general fund. The administration flagged that it should stay with the transportation fund. Because of the way the forecast had been done for 2027, it assumed that interest would come to the general fund. So to keep everything whole in 27, that becomes effective in 2028. The transportation fund will retain its own interest.
okay, taxes. That's. Okay.
Yes, and then the last piece to flag, and I'm happy to answer other questions to the best that I can, but the Senate appropriations bill includes language changing the allocation of the cannabis excise tax starting in FY 2028. Current law has 70% of the cannabis excise tax goes to the general fund and 30% goes to the substance misuse special fund. Starting in FY 28, 30%, that doesn't change, will still go to the substance misuse special fund. And then only 50% will go to the general fund and 20% will go to the higher education endowment trust fund. My understanding for the testimony that was taken in that committee and the conversations that they had is there is, in addition to this change, the Senate bill proposes allocating $12 million or appropriating $12 million of the higher education trust fund to the University of Vermont for their rec center. This would, in effect, pay back the higher education trust fund from the general fund over 3 years, and then it will take about 3 years to pay it back. And then after that, all the 20% would continue to go to the higher ed trust fund.
I believe it's 15 million that is the amount that is asked for is recreation center.
The governor's budget requested 15 million, the Senate appropriations bill only appropriates 12.
Okay. I think this is a really bad idea. And using money that's supposed to go to college scholarships for low-income students at all of our higher education institutions to use it to fund a recreation facility at one of our institutions, and then to use general fund money essentially to pay it back is a really, really bad idea. And I think that there are better ways to fund this.
Okay, well, we're gonna do the walkthrough now, all right? We'll finish that. This one is mine.
And so this is just a little last piece, just to show what the general fund impact will be of this change in FY 28 and 29. So shifting 20% of the amount going to the general fund, the higher ed trust fund would be about a $5 million impact to the general fund in out years.
Did I hear you right? That'll just keep going on. It's not until
Correct.
paid back.
Currently, as passed out of Senate appropriations, there's no end date on that transfer. That will be in perpetuity.
It goes on until it's changed.
That,
And that's all I have for specific sections of the budget or specific presentation of the budget.
Okay.
You'll have other budgetary questions or anything else you want me to point out specifically.
That's it. All right.
Did you want the Medicaid number?
Yeah.
So in FY 26, Julie Richter, JFO, at FY 27, there's about 9.5 million estimated to come into the ed fund for the Medicaid reimbursement. It's important to note that's not all Medicaid money's coming back, but just the portion that is dedicated to the ed fund.
Okay, so that would be coming out.
No, so that represents the 20%. So there's a split right now of and Emily can talk about this. But there's a split right now as to the dollars that are coming back for that federal reimbursement for the Medicaid funds, and there's a portion that goes to admin costs within the AOE. There's a portion that goes back to school districts, and then there's a portion that goes directly to the ed fund as a revenue source. The portion that goes directly to the ed fund is about 9.5 million, and that's about 20% of those funds. So you can also think about it as the other Medicaid dollars that are going to school districts are also impacting the education fund, right? Because that counts as offsetting revenues.
Right.
But it's not going in as like a revenue line item on the outlook. It's being accounted for in a lower education payment.
So,
And this construct doesn't really change that.
Okay.
It splits, to Emily's point, it splits those percentages up a bit, but it doesn't reduce the amount of Medicaid dollars coming in the education fund.
and the administration is going to AHS, but that doesn't change. Yeah, I assume that number can change based on usage or
And claims.
claims, yeah.
But what the AOE is asking for is instead of that money going to school districts, they want to be the ones to control it and appropriate it. At least that's what we heard today.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the agency. I think that the big picture sort of policy choice about this is if there should, one of the big policy choices is if there should be limitation on those earned federal dollars determined by the AOE, or if those dollars should go directly back to school districts without guidance or rules associated with them.
Right. Yeah, so the AOE is asking for rulemaking.
Okay. But in this bill, it's having no de minimis impact. And it's changing the administration authority from ALE to AHS,
Correct.
which does all the rest of the Medicaid, right? It administers all Medicaid, okay. Okay. And I am not sure what, because I don't have a drafter. I don't even, Kirby be the drafter to move or John? I suppose we could do a floor amendment, but I'd rather do it here.
To do what?
To move. It was requested
Okay.
that if in the transportation bill, there is what, $9 million taken out of the pilot fund and given to the local roads or municipal roads, whatever the official title is. I was asked by the chairs that we put that in the appropriations bill because it is an appropriation and that's where it should ride. But we haven't made a decision
we haven't gotten to
on that. But budget needs to move. So I'm trying to figure out the logistics of that one.
Big floor amendment's quite common with the budgets. My years doing this, they happen a lot.
We could do a floor amendment, I think would probably be the easiest thing at this point.
The chair of appropriations and transportation both supporting.
Well, we wanted to hear from.
we wanted to
appropriate.
hear more about it.
This doesn't impact the budget because it's a special fund.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna change any of the numbers in this bill.
But it's still being,
But if we choose to allow that, then it should get added to appropriations, but we have a lot to go through with transportation. And
We want to hear from the league, right? Is that
on the roads,
Yeah.
the league is looking for something else or more. We don't have miscellaneous tax. And I am not about to play with the budget. How things have been budgeted is not in our jurisdiction. So, and we don't have this on for a vote. But you would like it voted out, right? It's on
So
tomorrow.
tomorrow, yeah.
tomorrow.
That will give you time to actually, more time.
Okay. Then, since we have about 45 minutes, who would people like to hear from on this one?
Can
If
I,
anyone?
acknowledging my bias, may I respond to Senator Hardy's comment about the arena, or that not your time now?
No, that would not be.
I just wanted to add to something.
I'm trying to keep this,
Huge financial boondoggle in your district, go for it.
But I would acknowledge the bias. As we agree goal, but I don't think it's a financial
Okay.
boondoggle.
but it is
Appropriate.
Did it
not
take money
a
away from
finance
the
issue.
scholarships?
I disagree with that, and there's what is
Okay.
just.
All
Yeah,
right,
I have a way to do.
this is
Doesn't
not
be in the
a
budget.
finance issue.
Well, it's on our testimony for finance.
Anyone can make a floor amendment, but this is an appropriation. It was reported as changes that were made in the budget bill. But we do not have authority over appropriations. Anyone may make a floor amendment.
Well, for what it's worth, we have 45 minutes. I'd love to hear the conversation. If we have time, I mean,
I was hoping that maybe we could talk about the transportation bill,
okay.
which we do have some authority over. And looking for my copy of it. I think, was a long presentation yesterday, and most of us were going tilted with new information by the time we finished. But so it is on our bill 944. And I'm just trying to get a sense as to. We have already made one of the major decisions in the miscellaneous tax, which is we are doing the equalizing this money in, money out, and
$27.
$10 million in perpetuity. Given the tax revenue, the transportation fund will have a guaranteed 10 million in miscellaneous tax. We raised 10 million, so everybody is being held whole. Transportation's 10 million to the better. It's not what they need, but it's 10 million more than they have this year. So that one is done. The other part that, and I think it was new to most of us, was the mileage fee. And I don't think anyone had a philosophical problem with the mileage fee on EVs. And then at some point moving in to hybrids. I think some of it was understanding what happens. If the proposal is to eventually, and I don't think there's, but Emily is still here. Do we need anything from Emily? We'll be back.
I'll hang out, but.
You can hang out. And if we find anything that we need, let me know and we'll get further testimony tomorrow. And then I'd like to vote this out. They want it voted, it's out off the floor by Friday. So it can go into conference. We are going to have a lot to do with the education bill.
If we don't vote it out until tomorrow, then how's it gonna be voted off the floor on Friday?
I don't know.
Or the budget was Tuesday.
I've just been asked to get it out of here ASAP.
Yeah, Tuesday.
This is a kind of a pro forma. We really don't have any jurisdiction in anything that's been done here. So it is a pro forma stock. Kind of like miscellaneous tax has gone over there. I don't think we may have appropriated some money in there. And there's still appropriations going on in this building.
Well, the tax stuff that we did is in the budget, so it is in our jurisdiction. That's
The
why
tax stuff that we did.
the moving things around from fund to fund.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
well, that's a miscellaneous tax.
I think it got put in the budget.
It got put in the budget. Okay, who is going through the 300 budget?
Did the miscellaneous tax
Change
$10 million thing and the revenue that we created from miscellaneous
$10
tax,
million.
that's all accounted for.
All
in the budget.
accounted,
Yeah,
correct.
it's spent, but the raising of it is still a miscellaneous. tax.
Correct. There's nothing in the budget just as contemplates
Yeah.
we're gonna get new revenue from the miscellaneous tax bill, but it doesn't.
But
There's no
the
language.
switch between the transportation fund and the general fund or whatever that's in the transportation bill.
Correct.
That's what we need an amendment for to put it in the budget.
No,
No, that's. I
no,
thought that's
they
what
already,
the
you've
chair-
already accounted for, we changed
The,
no $10 million transfer to anyone. We're raising 10 million. They're losing 10 million in rooms and meals tax. So the money is accounted for, but any of that transfer language is still writing in miscellaneous. That hasn't
Okay.
been.
And in the yield bill, there was the language about the renter credit that changed. That got into the budget bill.
Yes.
I know the money got it correct.
the money did, the language about the change is still in the yield bill.
All the language, all the policy changes are in the yield bill. The budget just
Matches out.
accounted for the dollars.
Okay.
So that's all done. The one thing that's not done and won't impact the budget. And I think we've agreed we'll do a floor amendment when we do it, is if we agree to the proposal, which is pretty cut and dried, and we will get some testimony, I think, on the pilot fund. What's in it, what's a reasonable, would that be Chris maybe that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so whenever we can get Chris, what's in the pilot fund, I know that the league is working the towns today. They wanted to know if they could testify on the budget and on transportation, and I said they could talk about the appropriation that's in there, but not any other appropriation, because we don't appropriate. But I know they would like more of the pilot fund. Remember last year, we allowed towns to go from, I think it was 50 to 75%. they could keep of the pilot funds. We transferred it back to the towns. They got more of it returned to them. They wanted 80% last year.
Yeah. in 75.
We were watching the bottom line and didn't go to 80. This year, there is a proposal to take money out, and not a lot of money, and send it to the towns. When I asked if they wanted to testify on that, they said, well, they testify that it wasn't what they think would be the highest and best use. So we will ask them if they would like to do that. But I don't think budget is out. I don't think we have any authority to appropriate anything. So, and they're late to the ball game. I'm sorry. This is a professional group. They know what the timing is around here. And this just come up today in the halls.
They don't want it for municipal transportation, they want it for pilot.
I think they'd rather just be given all the money that's in the pilot fund and they can use
They
it.
do whatever they want.
Yeah. I think sending more money back to the towns was new. I think maybe I'm vested in pilots since that. Well, I spent quite a few years working on, but the transportation bill. So we've got that transfer out, and I suppose we could transfer more money out if we wanted to. It doesn't help the transportation fund as a whole, but it does, I think, take some of the pressure off of them to also have cash to move to the towns. But the big one change in here is the mileage.
If we get a little more testimony about that, I
Yeah.
felt like we didn't get the full like information about it and the interaction with how it interacts with the gas tax, how it interacts with out of state people and travel, what the timeline is, what it does for the transportation fund, if anything. It just felt like it was not the full. Yeah, sure, and that a lot of the committee, I felt like
Yes.
was either confused or didn't get
Yeah.
it.
I mean, afterwards, I did receive an email from AOT saying it probably would have been clearer if we had Patrick Murphy go first before we had Davian walk us through all the words, which legally is not always clear to the layman when you're structuring a program. Unfortunately, he's on vacation with family this week. It is school vacation week. So he's really not available.
I thought he was available tomorrow and Friday. That was
I will check
what I
on that.
understood.
If we can get him in, maybe check with Michelle Buhal and see if we can get him in. He seems to be their person.
But also maybe from JFO, I'd like to understand the money part. Like, does it give more revenue to the transportation fund? I wasn't sure.
Didn't it?
Yeah, over time, yeah, but I don't know that we
I
have a
couldn't tell.
fiscal note, so Emily, if you're taking notes back. We did get a fiscal note with that,
Yeah,
it's here,
it reduces revenue and then breaks even almost and then raises a couple of bucks.
the way I felt better. I got a chance to talk to the chair of transportation. I think, how it works and what do you do with out of state miles? I don't know. Probably it's other than to make it so complicated, it's not worth it. I was worried about the lower income people to whom $156 a year is grocery money. And things are tight now. Gas is tight. And the way it was explained to me was, no, you're gonna keep. You're gonna get your mileage check when you get your inspection. And if you don't drive enough miles, and most of us will at 32 cents a gallon. If you don't drive enough miles you pay in everyone's going to pay that owns a vehicle is going to pay in $156. You're either going to pay it in through gas tax. So you're going to put on enough mileage with whatever Honda says my average mileage is. If I put in $156 worth of gas tax, then I'm not going to owe that flat $156
You get a credit.
fee. You get a credit.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
I didn't either.
Yesterday.
Now, the only problem with that is the people that does help the poorer people that have to drive to work in gas vehicles. People that would be penalized on that one is the little old lady who drives her car 2 miles to church on
Yeah.
Sunday and to the grocery store on Monday. The really
But
short,
she would have to pay a lot more
she would pay.
just for having a car that she drives a few miles a week.
Mhm.
I would like to have them back in here to explain this, because this
Okay.
does not make sense to me.
And
First year.
I think
Okay, so
we don't have to get. I know they would like it out, but it is not one of the prime money bills that has to be out this week. So I'm feeling we have,
The transportation bill?
yeah.
Oh.
At least I don't know, where is it on Emily's? You know, we can only do what we can do, and we did the 2 big bills last week. We will do the budget. And but this one, I think, this is a big change. This will make Vermont
Agree on this, Matt?
first one, yeah.
All right, so I want to bifurcate the mileage-based usage fee into 2 discussions. So there's one on the EVs and plug-in EVs. So we currently have a fee registration fee on them that's half for the plug-ins, okay? So I fully support this very reasonable transition to a mileage-based usage fee for the EVs and the plug-in EVs that aren't paying enough at the pump to pay for our roads. That I think makes perfect sense. We have the $3 million grant to support it. I think that's what AOT started. And where I have reservations that I do not support is sections 21 and 22, which contemplates and sets in motion a transition to expand the mileage-based usage fee to all vehicles. That I don't see as a good policy to pay for our roads, because they're paying at the pump, that's at the gas tax, and this is a tax, so it would only tax Vermonters. So that's, I don't know if that's where we isolate.
I want to hear from them about how it works. I mean, I appreciate what you support and don't support, but I want to hear from them about how it works, so I can understand.
And to
And
that
we
end-
will see if we can get Patrick this week and get him, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay, if that's true.
I
Then we will,
just reread the fiscal note too, and I see them as really raising as much money as they're currently raising with the miles-based usage fee from what we're currently getting with the registration additional EV and plus charges. Could be the two of somewhere between 1.3 and 2.9 billion.
but there must be a reason why they want to move in this direction, so.
they need,
But if it's not really making money, then I don't understand. So there must be some other reason. That's why I want to hear from them again.
I agree, I want to hear from them too, but if I may invoke what I understand about this, right now, the registration fee is not necessarily fair. So I have some constituents that have an EV and they put maybe 1,000 miles on it every year, but they're still getting a $178 charge. The mileage-based usage fee will be proportional to how much they actually use the roads. So if you have an EV and you put 12,000 or 100,000 miles on it.
No, I get that, but the interaction with the gas tax for the other vehicles, I don't understand, and I want to hear their pitch.
I agree.
I didn't really get it yesterday.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of technical stuff and it didn't go A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
so we've been working and the decision made several years ago to go in the direction of doing a mileage fee for EVs. And I have already gotten several emails telling me it's not fair. I didn't get a federal tax credit to buy my car. So there's been a lot of support for EVs. They've gotten tax credits because it started as a social good to encourage it. But they also have a responsibility as people that drive gas powered vehicles to pay to the
Yeah,
roads
I don't
they
get it,
use.
but
And
I'm
I
just
think
trying to understand it.
Yeah.
How it works.
Like,
I wanna know.
people want to get tax skin to understand it.
But there are people that drive EVs that don't think they should have to pay any road.
Oh, yes.
tax.
I just want to
Yeah.
understand it. I don't know if I have supported it or not because I don't understand
Okay,
it.
we have
Fiscal note was
limited
explained.
time.
I'll look at the fiscal note again, but if they could come in, then we can ask questions. That would be helpful.
We will,
Specifically, if you drive less than
Yeah,
1,000 miles.
yeah, because it would seem like if it should benefit people who drive less.
Because from what I saw, you start off at $89 road usage fee that first year.
Yeah.
Because you have no baseline. So you
we're just
start off at
calling it a
89.
different thing.
And then a year into it, or whenever you go to do your inspection, you then figure out how many miles. And then that's where I'm a little wishy-washy on, well, do you get a credit if it's less? And then you have the whole cap that comes into play. So
Yeah.
really, it's up to $176, $178 is the most you can pay in a
Right.
mileage-based user fee. So you could drive 100,000 miles and you'll be paying the same as somebody who drives whatever that average, 11,000, whatever it was.
11.
Which is why I would just do a flat fee across the board.
It seems like we would want to incentivize people driving less and if they can, because then there'll be less usage on the road, or they could if they can use public transportation or ride their bike or walk or whatever, then,
You haven't gotten emails about
but
should appropriate $500,000 more and $1.5 million more.
I'm just trying, like, literally trying to understand the construct, and
Okay.
it makes me a concern to hear that, like, your example of the person who would only drive a few miles a week would pay the same as somebody who's driving 11,000 miles a
We
year
can
or
do
something.
a limit, I mean,
Yeah.
drive under 100 miles or 50 miles or 20 miles a month.
What's in the name? It's mileage-based usage fee. So they
Yeah.
try to charge you more the more miles you do. But you're absolutely right that if they cap it, then it's actually going to have an incentive that people are going to say, well, once I hit 11,000, I might as well do 100,000 to avoid paying it this year, and then maybe get my mechanic to mark up the miles so that I'm
Well,
paying
that's,
less next year.
that, I mean, you go
Once you're
in-
over 11,000.
I think they're trying to plan for a future too, to solve for the fact that gas powered cars are gonna become obsolete at some point, and we are moving toward other ways of transport.
And
It's true.
we,
I don't have anything to pull my excavator out, so I haven't.
the bottom line is the transportation fund is in serious financial
And that's the
difficulty.
bottom line.
And it needs tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, in order to do any kind of a credible job maintaining the roads. And at the present time, we have been told any new revenue source, except this one, because it is just, you're gonna pay the same tax in theory to use the roads as people that have gas. So there's an equity thing here. Can I say equity in that sense?
Yes.
In watching. But that is not gonna make up the kind of money that that's needed in order to maintain the roads. And no matter where we end up, I keep hearing hydrogen is the future. We're still gonna, unless we end up as the Jetsons, we're gonna put wear and tear in the roads, and we've got to find a way to maintain them. This is one way, but I don't think this is going to raise the kind of money that's necessary.
I don't think it's raising it the right way.
Well,
Combustion.
combustion. How about hydrogen combustion?
And that's combustion. We pay fuel tax.
Okay, we don't have them here. So we will see if we can get Patrick Murphy in here.
There's another topic on the T-bill that I just got
Yes.
an email about fuel, the airline tax, jet fuel tax.
Oh, yes.
We're gonna
We
hear that
do
tomorrow.
have some people coming in on that tomorrow. One person. No, everyone just looks at me and gives me this cat that swallowed the canary look when I say anything about jet fuel.
Aviation Day, April 30th.
No one's seen.
Still have some opinions. No one wants it.
Just received it.
Well, I think the airport wants it, but I think the concern is it will make the airport more expensive
I don't think the airport wants it.
to use. So who wants it?
Well, you can hear mine.
Tell you I'm on the meeting.
Okay.
General
See
aviation.
if you can find somebody that wants it to come talk to us.
I don't know anybody. I don't
I
necessarily
mean,
want.
I have a
just
feeling
looking
I-
at what's happening with airlines right now. We have lost carriers and we're gonna lose more flights just because the cost and usage, and so the more expensive it is, the more we risk losing things. It just is bad timing. Okay. So that's it. I will put the budget on for a vote tomorrow. I will have to find the drafter. Oh no, we're gonna do a floor amendment, so we don't even have to do that for the transportation fund. Okay, we will be in room 11 at 2:45. I don't have anything else on. We're gonna go over. I hope that we don't take all the time they've got on there.
That's got some time on there, huh?
So we will go through. This is gonna be mostly the finance sections. I thought that we were going to go through all the sections. So we will set up next week for us to go through the education sections, just so we
Well,
know.
Johnson, John D. Good job. So that'd be.
John does
Finance.
Yeah, do that.
finance.
Mm.
Beth St. James does all the ed policy. So we will get her in just so we know what's there, but.
Yeah.
The finance sections are pretty clearly divided. I think there's one that may have some overlap. Might be school construction. Yeah, that has overlap. So. We will. See, and I've been told, I've just found out, I never knew, and apparently the chair of Ways and Means just found out. If we do a committee bill, we aren't bound by crossover. So they may be sending us another revenue bill.
Okay.